Hey everyone, welcome to your Friday edition of The Nerve. I have been dying to get back to you guys, dying, because there is so much to get into. We've got Brad Pitt and Tyler Perry mired in scandal. We've got a best-selling book by a terrible, minimally talented author, and I guess technically a pundit, but I don't think this person passes for a pundit. And we're going to take this one apart as well. And we've got some updates. We're going to call these people going forward on The Nerve repeat offenders. We already have a recurring cast of characters. We're only in our second month. So, I think we're doing really good work out of the gate. Okay. And my favorite, your emails. But first, I have, a really personal plea. I am really in trouble. I told you guys last week, I lost my phone, like my physical phone. And I don't know if you guys assume this stuff. I just assume the technology is so advanced that things are constantly backing up to the cloud all the time, including voicemails and things like your Instagram account. And it's not so. I lost my Instagram password and I have been locked out of Instagram since last Wednesday. That's a week and a half. And I cannot get back in. So this is my cri de coeur, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It is my cry for help to Troublemaker Nation. Now, Hoda Kotb would probably say I should find joy in this unexpected loss and maybe consider it my journey to a strength I didn't know that I had. But listen, all I want is to be back on Instagram with you guys. So if any of you have any ins or any relatives who work at Instagram or Meta who could help me, because there is no number to call. They just send you on a feedback loop of, do you need help? Go to the fact page. Do you need help? Oh, you could email us, but you know what? We don't answer emails. And if we do, it takes weeks and weeks. And I can't communicate with you directly on Instagram. I haven't been able to post anything or check my DMs. This is insane. So it's just, we're doing everything we can over at Nerve HQ to get back in. But if anybody has a little hack, a little connect, please let me know. Email me, Maureen at devilmaycaremedia.com. Now, right after the break, we are going to get to the one thing that we really do live and die for. Real talk about fake people. See you in a minute. We've all heard it before. Wrinkle creams are the secret to looking younger. Not so, according to Beverly Hills cosmetic surgeon Dr. John Lakey. He says that is not true anymore. He says that most wrinkle products are nothing more than overpriced moisturizers, and some actually might be doing more harm than good. So that's why Dr. Lakey stepped away from traditional treatments and developed something completely different, a simple at-home method that's getting major attention. His clients call it the Age Rewinder method because it can visibly smooth the look of wrinkles in under 2 minutes. Dr. Lakey describes it as almost like Photoshop for your face, and he says that you might be shocked at how easy it is to use. To share this breakthrough, he's released a free video that walks you through the method step by step, no signups, no interruptions. And this video has already gone viral with over 2.3 million views and thousands of glowing reviews. One said, "I've tried everything and this is the only thing that actually worked. I look years younger." If you want to see what everyone is talking about, just go to bhmd1.com/nerve or click the link in the description. And if it works for you, Dr. Lakey has one simple request. Please share it. Let's help more people feel confident in their skin. Okay, troublemakers. First up is Brad Pitt. One William Bradley Pitt. We touched on this a little bit in the last episode, but it's gotten so bad, so truly terrible that we really need to go deeper. And Brad, go into the woodshed. The woodshed. This is a guy who has been a major A-list global movie star for decades, okay? He burst onto the scene in 1991 in Thelma and Louise, and he has been a megastar ever since. There are very few of these remaining. I think Tom Cruise is really the only other one. Harrison Ford would have been in this category, but he's kind of aged out. I mean, we're talking real real old school movie star. So he's got a new movie coming out called F1. It has like a $200 million budget. It's an Apple film. It needs to make a lot of money. It's being released in the theaters, as very few movies these days are. So, first of all, he's doing the rounds and he's having a total midlife crisis. He's walking around New York City in like this blue velvet jacket with like wide-legged jean pants. So the proportions are off because like it's all one, it makes him look huge. And then he's got these boots on. They look like boots, but they might be shoes that have an aggressive square toe, which is extremely like 1994. I mean, he looks ridiculous. And he's running around with his girlfriend who's half his age. And, it seems like her job is to just be light and easy so that Brad can do whatever he wants. Just my opinion. Okay. So in doing the rounds to promote this movie, Brad Pitt, like the idiot he has long been rumored to be, hygienically challenged and an idiot, has been talking about what losers he thinks two of his adopted sons are. Losers, basically. Okay. Now, not since Tom Cruise jumped on Oprah's couch have we seen such an enormous star suffer such a massive self-inflicted wound, but that is what Brad Pitt has just done to himself, with sources in his camp allegedly telling the Daily Mail, and I just columned on this yesterday, that he considers his relationship with his son Pax, quote, unfixable. Unfixable. Pax is 21 years old. He's got a long life ahead of him. If he's careful, we'll get into that. Imagine telling your 21-year-old son there's no way back to a relationship with you. Now, this is one of the most disgusting displays I have ever seen. I think that this kid seems really clearly troubled. And, after these photos and videos emerged of Pax unable to seemingly walk on his own, let alone stand on his own, after a night of partying at LA's Chateau Marmont, where, John Belushi died of a drug overdose. It's a very decadent scene over there. So he was at the Chateau, and then he went to a strip club where he was, shot, being held up by a friend, bleary-eyed out of it. Brad Pitt sees a kid in crisis. I think this is a kid in crisis. And instead of reaching out to this child of his privately, or just saying nothing, had sources, just my opinion, because this is a well-sourced story in the Daily Mail. So these sources said, and I quote, Brad has zero concern with what Pax does or doesn't do. Pax's reactions reflect who he is. So basically he's saying, Pax is a drunk. Pax is a kid who hasn't gotten his stuff together. And that's on him. That's on him. So why don't we talk about who Pax really is? Okay, Brad, let's do it. Let's do it. Pax was taken from the only home he had ever known, which was a Vietnamese orphanage, at 3 years old. And he was taken to America by you and your then partner, Angelina Jolie. Now, I believe she went and got him on her own, but you two were together at the time and you adopted him. And then you two changed his name, this child who didn't even speak or understand English, from Pham Quang Sang to Pax Jolie Pitt, as discussed. Every name has to end in X with the boys because they're such rebels over at the Jolie Pitt Palace, okay? Now, I'm going to be fair here. Neither parent really seems like a prize. I think it's a race to the bottom. Now, this is per multiple reports from 2018, originating with Us Weekly. During Brad and Angie's multi-year bitter divorce, which lasted longer than their marriage, and I think has finally been wrapped up, but I mean, there could be loose ends. Angelina was reported to have told Pax, who was then 15 years old, that Pitt, quote, never wanted to adopt him. That is evil. Okay, that in my opinion is evil. How could an impressionable child who is already likely traumatized by his adoption and never knowing his birth parents and being spirited away to a new country and plopped in this freak show household, and then the parents get married and they get divorced and they're acquiring kids and they're birthing kids and this and that. Like, how after that could he ever, after his mother says that to him, which it clearly looks like parental alienation, whether it's true or not, or it's rooted in some version of how could this kid ever be expected to trust in his father again? How? So Jolie, in my opinion, if she said that to him, as these reports, multiple maintain, and they've never sued for libel or defamation or anything like that, to my knowledge, if she said that, she did that to poison that well with his father and to make sure that Pax would remain hers and hers alone. And then she expounded, because why not? Let's compound this trauma, okay? Let's compound trauma upon trauma upon trauma. All of you troublemakers out there, it is a gift to be born into anonymity. It is a gift to be born not to parents who are rich and famous. So Angelina then told Pax reportedly that Brad was, quote, angry that despite his misgivings, she proceeded to adopt him. Okay, I can't imagine ever telling a child such a thing, like ever. I had friends in high school, I'm sure you guys did too, who I went to an Irish Catholic school and, the parents didn't really use birth control. And I had friends who would say oh, I was the oops baby. I was the mistake. They told me that. They thought that my mom thought she couldn't have any more kids. And then here I come. And, they never got over it. No matter how much quote unquote humor that was relayed to them with, they never got over this idea. And I had a friend who was adopted too. And she had a really good family here. She was adopted from Asia and she never got over it. She never stopped wondering about who gave her up and why. Okay. So magnify that trauma, that rejection that a child of adoption feels by their birth parents by 1,000,000. Okay. Because now not only is this terrible stuff going on and both of these idiot, immature excuses for parents, just my opinion, they're duking it out on the world stage and using the kids as what I think is ammunition, cannon fodder, basically. Okay. So to those reports that Brad never wanted to adopt Pax, how did he respond at the time? Now, if I'm Brad Pitt, and thank God none of us are, because this guy is shallow and vainglorious and narcissistic and dumb. Okay. I think based on the evidence I am submitting, remember, I'm a prosecutor in my mind, he's dumb, not to mention a lousy father. I would say my response, were I to issue one publicly, I don't know that I even would be to say that is categorically not true. I never said that. I always wanted him. I loved him from the beginning and I love him now. That is it. Did Brad Pitt do that? No, of course he didn't. Instead, he said, his camp said in sum and substance that Brad had reservations, quote, reservations about adopting Pax, that he and Angie already had Maddox, they already had Shiloh, and their own relationship was in a very difficult place. So adding another kid to the mix, Pax, who Angie had already found, was not what or who Brad Pitt wanted. These two, Brad and Angie, they really, really deserved each other. They should have stayed together. They should have just stayed together, And in researching this piece, all I had to do to make sure I was pulling up factual evidence of everything I recalled, from my deep reading of all this stuff, all I had to do was Google the words, Pitt didn't want Pax. 4 simple words. And it all comes up. Do you think Pax, Jolie, hasn't already done that 1,000,000 times? And this is all in stark contrast to a statement that Brad Pitt's team put out in August 2024. So that's less than a year ago, after Pax wound up in the ICU after crashing his e-bike in LA. Per People magazine, last updated August 8th, 2024. And I quote, Brad Pitt is getting updates about son Pax's recovery from an accident despite being estranged from his adult children, a source tells People. Quote, he hasn't had any contact with Pax in years, but he still very much cares, says the source. Now, this is clearly a Brad Pitt source. So as of less than a year ago, he cared very much. And as of now, he doesn't give a shit. What's going on? Now, at the time of this accident, Pax Jolie, it's unclear what or who he crashed into, but he was bleeding on the ground. And this bystander named Lola Cavalli, who helped Pax at the scene before the ambulance came, talked to Entertainment Tonight. And she said that there were bystanders gathered around and they were redirecting traffic so that they could form a little perimeter around Pax, who was on the ground bleeding from his head so profusely that she couldn't even locate the source of the bleed, and that his mouth was filled with blood. Then, when he was released from the ICU, another source told people that Pax had, quote, suffered complex trauma and had a long road of recovery and physical therapy ahead of him, which to me, just my opinion, sounds like traumatic brain injury. He was not wearing a helmet. I think since then he has had at least one other crash, and I think he has this habit still of not wearing a helmet. Now, I think that this kid, and while legally he's an adult, Pax seems more like a teenager lashing out. And we all know that the prefrontal cortex, which controls logic and planning and decision-making and impulse control, doesn't fully mature until age 25. And as for Maddox, who Angie adopted before she ever got with Brad, and remember when Brad left Jennifer Aniston for Angelina Jolie, his camp put out the poisonous, misogynistic reason that it was because she refused to give him children, because she was such a careerist. And, there have always been like rumors that have never really fully been refuted, not that she should have to, that during her marriage to Brad Pitt, Jennifer Aniston had a miscarriage. So if that's true, he's even worse than he's showing us to be. Okay. But now he's also saying he's cutting Maddox off. He's cutting Maddox off too. So all of these children that Brad Pitt so publicly longed for, and was like, all I want to do is be a father. Movie stardom. I want to be a father. I want to have a soccer team. I remember him telling like Diane Sawyer he wanted to have a soccer team. Well, he pretty much got one. And now we're lopping kids off like one by one by one. Okay. So this is what Brad's camp is saying about Pax and Maddox, the elder two sons. Pax and Maddox have made it abundantly clear how they feel, and Brad has nothing to say about either of them. I mean, this guy sounds like he's fucking 12 years old. Who is the father here and who are the children? More, quote, Brad honestly considers his relationship with Pax unfixable, but says the source, he hopes the other 4 children will come around to Daddy Brad. Loving, soothing, comforting, forgiving, Dad Brad. Sure, Brad. Because what sibling of any integrity and real love would seek to reconcile with a piece of shit father, just my opinion, who has publicly rejected 2 of his adopted sons, who has publicly said they are cut out of his life? Yeah. Seems like a great guy, great father. Yeah. Good luck selling your movie, Brad. I hope one of those otherwise feckless, useless entertainment shows asks you about this. Okay? Now, on to Tyler Perry. This was only a matter of time. I suspected this would only be a matter of time. Tyler Perry, BFF to Oprah and Gail, who I increasingly think are cloaked in some real darkness. They've got all these ties to all this weird, dark stuff happening in the culture right now. Meghan and Harry, godfather to Lilibet, Tyler Perry, owner of the private jet that spirited Harry and Meghan on their freedom flight to Montecito. Okay. Now, here was Oprah, who I do think, I really suspect this, and it'll be in some small part, just a very small part to our very important, dedicated, diligent work here at the Nerve. She's going to go down too eventually. She knows too many. I think she knows too many monsters. I really do. Okay. I think that there is like something in the ether, and that her dark, cynical heart is going to be exposed. Okay. So here was Oprah on Tyler Perry last December. Remember, Oprah was also pals with Harvey. She also helped Harry and Meghan spread their lies, the alleged claims of alleged racism and alleged, the royals didn't care that a pregnant Meghan was suicidal. The implication being they'd prefer that she killed herself. Oprah, who's never apologized for that, by the way, or lying to us that she was not on Ozempic when she was the face of Weight Watchers, telling American women and women of other anywhere else that they were accessing Weight Watchers, that it was just diet, exercise, and willpower. Fuck Oprah, okay? So here she is 6 months ago honoring Tyler Perry at the Paley Center for Media's annual gala, and I quote, "He is a giant among men. He has a ginormous spirit that is guided." Let's do Oprah's deep voice. "He is a ginormous spirit that is guided by a divine hand. Let me tell you, the secret to Tyler Perry is that Tyler Perry loves God, and through a team of esteemed advisors surrounds him. And though a team of esteemed advisors surrounds him, he makes no move ever without consulting God first." Well, I think God would probably like a word. Okay. Now, Tyler, that ginormous spirit guided by a divine hand, has just been hit with a $260 million lawsuit for sexual assault by one of his actors, a guy named Derek Dixon. Now we're looking at a photo of Derek. He's young, he's fit, he's, sort of what you would expect. Now, this breaking news prompted The Root, which is a long-standing publication. It's Black news. It's about Black culture. So The Root just published a piece reminding us of another Tyler Perry accuser. And this one dates back to December 2023. And an actor named Christian Keyes, who starred in Perry's film Diary of a Mad Black Woman. And, again, like I'm going to say, I think Tyler Perry, whose films often, he writes them, he directs them, they are his brainchild, the Medea films. He's often playing a woman in drag, and it's really mocking womanhood and femininity. And I think the guy has issues with women. As I always say, these people tell us who they are. They hide in plain sight. So anyway, this accuser, Christian Keyes, took to Instagram Live and TikTok and said that ginormous Oprah? A giant, beloved, extremely powerful Hollywood figure had sexually harassed him, and that said figure had a, quote, payroll of young men, and that the whisper campaign about this guy, this figure, I don't know if he gendered the figure, but, was spreading. Okay, the whisper campaign was spreading like cheeks and ankles, if you will. Okay, just my opinion, just a guess. Now, The Root said that the most popular guest among the online commentariat was Tyler Perry, or one of the most popular guesses, Tyler Perry. Okay. Now, TMZ has published detailed complaints in this filing per their report, which was updated June 18th, 2025. Derek also notes that his character Dale was written as a gay, homeless, and desperate store clerk who had to sleep with other characters for a place to stay. He claims that's exactly what Tyler told him he was looking for in a real-life sexual partner, someone who would be loyal and dependent upon Tyler. Again, with these guys, if this is true, I'm just saying, very few of them seem to want anybody on their level. They want playthings. They want shoe toys. We talked about this in one of our most recent episodes about the new lawsuit or the new criminal complaint. I forget which it was that's been filed against Jared Leto. It's people that are vulnerable, that they can exploit and that they can abuse. And again, this is all alleged against Tyler Perry, but this seems to be a systemic, institutionalized problem in Hollywood, does it not? Per TMZ, Derek says he feared his career would be derailed if he flatly rejected Tyler. I mean, how many women have been here, right? So instead, he just told him he wasn't like the sexual type. but he was always terrified that he would lose his job if he complained about sexual harassment. And to that point, he says Tyler once again invited him to Atlanta later in 2020, and things allegedly took a dark turn. Again, I'm reading from this report. Derek claims that Perry greeted him warmly, but quickly started a sexually charged conversation. I mean, it's not even subtle. What kind of a writer is Tyler fucking Perry? Asking him if he liked it, quote, rough in bed. I mean, get some writers from your writer's room to help you, or hire better writers. This is terrible dialogue. And then, allegedly, he grabbed Derek by the throat while saying, quote, look how excited you just got. Derek says he pushed Tyler away, and that was the end of that alleged incident. The lawsuit also includes years of text messages allegedly sent between both men. And it claims that most of the ones Tyler allegedly sent are sexually charged. For instance, one reads, no straight man would be going on walks with you. Okay, I'm going to start that again because it's so weird. Listen to this again. No straight man would be going on walks with you or cooking dinner for you unless they wanted to fuck you. I would fuck you. So I guess Tyler was clocking a straight man who is paying attention to Derek. And he's saying, I know that Derek must be gay. And Tyler is clearly saying he will fuck Derek. And Tyler has never come out and said that he's gay, although I think, you know, we see pictures and stuff and we all sort of assume it. And but it sounds like Tyler's jealous. It sounds like Tyler's saying, why are you spending all this time with like a guy who's not going to give it to you the way I would give it to you? Okay. Now, TMZ also got a hold of alleged text messages between the accuser, Derek Dixon, and Tyler Perry, which are allegedly contained in this lawsuit. I love lawsuits and I love legal documents because they contain details and color that are just often so telling. And for the TMZ report, these are photos of the alleged text messages, and in this one here, you can see that Tyler is like an asshole. He's posing in like a life vest next to like a jet ski or whatever you call those jet scooters in the water, you know, water toys per below deck, you know, like it's his dick. Like, I'm rich. Look at me. I'm on the beach with a fucking water toy. Oh my God, these people. So the texts per, so Tyler is telling Derek allegedly that he is feeling horny and he doesn't like being horny. And then a following text bubble holds the lonely word testosterone. And this guy, Derek, allegedly is trying to avoid this conversation. And he goes, oh yeah, from the doctor. But is it making you feel better? Like really anodyne, like base level. I'm responding to this. I really would rather not. Tyler, I feel so good, but I don't like being horny. There's another one where, you know what? I'm not even going to get into it. We can revisit this later, but this is not looking great for Tyler Perry. And I'm sure he and his legal team have their eyes over on the Diddy trial, where Diddy is just trying to say he's just a baby oil enthusiast who likes a burqa and, you know, a sex worker named the Punisher. But, and sometimes like he's a bad boyfriend. Like, yeah, he did beat Cassie up, but you know, it's not a crime. I mean, all right, we'll see how it turns out for Tyler. But I will say, you know, I never really held him in great esteem at all. And then I saw him in Gone Girl and I thought he was great in that. He was a great actor in that. I'll give him that. Okay. Next up, we are going to take a minimally talented. No, I'm going to retract that. A minimally talented, by the way, I ripped off from Scott Rudin's emails that were part of the Sony hack. Which I don't know if you guys remember, it was that Seth Rogen movie. And it was believed that the Chinese government was behind this hack. And so all these Sony emails wound up out in the public sphere. And it was the super producer, Scott Rudin, since been canceled. We'll revisit him in a few months, writing to the then very powerful studio head, Amy Pascal, about Angelina Jolie, who wanted David Fincher to direct her in Cleopatra. And Scott Rudin was like, no, Fincher's doing Jobs, the Steve Jobs movie, which he didn't do. Aaron Sorkin wound up doing, and it was terrible. Most Aaron Sorkin things are. But anyway, they were discussing Jolie, and Scott Rudin called her words that will enter the lexicon forever. They're here at the Nerve. I will consider them part of the Nerve lexicon. A quote, minimally talented, spoiled brat. Talk about a wordsmith. Again, Hemingway-esque in its minimalism, but it packs a punch. So I'm going to retract it. This next Nerve offender is a zero talent, grievance filled, morally bankrupt, just my opinion, newly minted best-selling author. And she too, going to the woodshed. Back in a minute. Introducing a warehouse, your one-stop shop for unique premium home goods sourced exclusively from small businesses. In a world where nearly everything is mass-produced, a warehouse is doing things differently. They're committed to preserving traditional craftsmanship and directly supporting the makers behind these products by offering a curated selection of expertly made goods. With a strong focus on American-made manufacturing, over 75% of their vendors are based right here in the US. So from hand-thrown pottery and artisanal kitchen tools to luxurious candles, soaps, and more, every item is selected for its integrity, craftsmanship, and story. Small businesses need our support now more than ever. This year, Forbes has predicted a record-breaking 15,000 retail store closures in the U.S. That's more than double the 7,000 plus closures in 2024. So by making the effort to support these small retailers, you can make a real difference in people's lives. A warehouse believes that true luxury isn't about brand names or labels or price tags. And that's right. That's completely right. It's about the dedication, creativity, and care that goes into every product. So if you value made in the USA manufacturing and you want to fill your home with items that tell a story, visit awarehouseshop.com/discount/the Nerve and use code the Nerve for 15% off your first order. That's awarehouseshop.com/discount/the Nerve, promo code the Nerve. Welcome back to the Nerve and to our woodshed. Our proverbial woodshed. One Molly Jong-Fast. I got emails from a fair number of you troublemakers asking what I thought about Molly Jong-Fast, what I thought about her new book. I'm working. I've also gotten emails asking about the segment I've been talking about that we're planning on difficult mothers. And trust me, we're actively planning it. But to do it right, it's taking a little bit of time. So just bear with us. Initially, though, I thought, okay, I don't think much of Molly Jong-Fast as an intellect. Most people don't. She is on CNN, and she used to be on MSNBC a lot, and now they've really dialed back on her appearances. I wonder if the book has anything to do with it that we're going to discuss. But I also think that MSNBC is so fucked after Joe Scarborough defended Biden as the best Biden ever and said Trump was a Nazi. And then when Trump won, he and Mika went to Mar-a-Lago and kissed the ring. And since then, the viewership has cratered over there. And so, Molly Jong-Fast fashioned this career for herself after decades of trying to become famous and noteworthy and respected in the culture by becoming just this anti-Trump zealot. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, just be smart. If you're smart in your arguments, no matter what I think of your target, I'll respect you. But she's not bright. And she's one of these middle-aged women who's constantly floundering around, and how the tell, it's in her hair, which it is 4 different colors at once. Okay. So it's not a well person. Okay. Not a well, when you're a teenager, you're in the manic panic section of the drugstore. Fine, have at it. That's what you should be doing as a teenager. But at 50, okay. So Molly Jong-Fast is the daughter of a very famous author named Erica Jong. Her mother was famous, I believe, in the 70s for a book called Fear of Flying. It was very boundary pushing. It was ultra second wave feminist. At the time, it introduced a very famous phrase into the lexicon. You can look it up if you want. I'm trying to dial back a little bit on unnecessary obscenities. Sometimes it's really called for, as you know. But this was also a time in America, a lost time. I think a really glamorous time. And I wish I had been, really kind of it just to witness it really in a way I could appreciate it. But this was a time when like authors in America were really like they were pop cultural figures. It like authors and thinkers were as famous as like movie stars and rock stars, or maybe just like a rung below, but they would often be on the cover of, Time magazine, or on talk shows, like nighttime talk shows, morning, daytime talk shows, like the Dick Cavett show. It was the era of like Norman Mailer and Mary McCarthy and Truman Capote, who was decompensating in real time. But it was also the era of like, like sort of pulp novelists would be on TV too, like Jackie Collins. It was just a much more fascinating, interesting time for it. Okay. Because you had people who really had something going on upstairs. It wasn't just a complete carpet bombing by Nepo babies, actors, pop stars, and influencers, which has sunk the discourse to just like subterranean levels. Okay. So, and this was also a time, that was a reflection of what Americans were like, the average American was doing, which included reading, reading books, both for pleasure and for edification. It was as normal and frequent in the culture as, inhaling streaming services are today. Okay. So I'm just setting the table because Molly has spent her entire adult life in competition with her mother. She is an only child, and she has been attempting to approach her mother's fame and accomplishments, if not outrun those, outpace those, destroy her mother, but get her mother's love. It's now this is someone who grew up in New York City. Again, the best psychotherapists in the world are here. I don't think Molly ever truly availed herself, and none of this has gone well for her because Molly, my opinion, she's not smart, she's not talented, she doesn't possess a winning personality. She's just a terrible person. They're just out there. The culture would have you believe that these people are on the spectrum. They suffer some sort of social autism. They do not. They're just fucking terrible. Okay, so I'm going to read from just a little bit of her new best-selling book. It's called How to Lose Your Mother, A Daughter's Memoir. And it's got all these blurbs from people. Like, by the way, when you see blurbs on a book, I'm going to let you in on a little industry secret. They don't mean anything. Often the people who blurb the books have not even read the books. And usually they are cocktail party friends. Lori Gottlieb, whose book, someday I will take that to the woodshed. I know a little bit too much about that book. Claire Massoud, an otherwise great writer. Riveting complexity. Okay. Anne Lamott, beautiful and painful at the same time, just like real life. That's a statement that means nothing. Nigella Lawson, I was just bowled over by this book. Well, that's a statement that could be interpreted in several ways, right? You could be bowled over by how crass and heartless and cynical and disgusting it is, like I was. I'm not even finishing this book. These tabs, sorry, my pen fell out. These tabs are as far as I got. I did a lot for you, but I cannot stomach this. Now she writes, we're in the prologue. Okay, 3 pages into the prologue, maybe 5, page 5, of her mother. When the pandemic started, she was her normal alcoholic self. By the end, she was lying in bed all day, drinking a bottle or 2 of wine. My stepfather was taking care of her, but he couldn't walk and was incontinent. At some point, I found poop in my mom's bed. I've always hated, Molly's talking about herself, I'd always hated the idea of writing a book like this. Liar. I think, Molly, you're a liar. I've always hated the idea that the luck of being born into a famous-ish literary family might undermine anything else I've achieved. Listen, sister, you've only gotten this book deal and your little perches over on MSNBC and CNN because you have a famous mother and a famous last name. That is it. And I am really railing on Nepo babies. The more I've thought about this, the more I've come down on the side of like, these people are taking jobs and opportunities that would otherwise go to much more deserving, hardworking people who probably possess more than one original thought rattling around in their brain. I mean, what does CNN and MSNBC execs think about employing a woman who would talk about her own mother like this and memorialize it in the pages of a book? Do you think she's not going to do the same thing to any of her colleagues or bosses? You know, not for nothing, I had a long-standing boss once who confided in me that someone who had left a couple of years later came back around and said, I would love to come back. Would you hire me? Would you give me a job? And this boss said, absolutely not, because you are so indiscreet and you will publish anything about anyone without even so much as asking them, that how on earth could your colleagues possibly trust you? So, you know, just a little heads up to the brain trust over at those organizations. She goes on to say, I've made a career for myself as a political writer. And I can say that writing and thinking about politics has been a liberation for me, another garbage word in the culture. And we're going to watch some of Molly's, contributions on the airwaves. Here she is talking about her mother, realizing her mother has dementia. I sat on the sofa and watched my mother try to remember the year that she was born. You know, fuck off, Molly Jong-Fast. As discussed on this podcast, my mother has dementia. I talked about this with Bruce Willis and his family, who, in my opinion, are exploiting the shit out of this poor guy who doesn't know where he is or what day it is. You know, the only thing that you can protect for a loved one who is suffering with dementia is their dignity. And Molly Jong-Fast, this book, just serves as a tar pit of her emotional rage and her resentments and her grievances that she's not, because she deep down knows she's not as smart and she's not as accomplished, she's not as popular or as well liked or wanted as her mother. And now she's getting her revenge out on her mother, okay? And then guess who sits down with her and gives her a lengthy profile with a glamour shot? Yeah, you guessed it. The New York fucking Times, which we'll get to that, okay? But first, let's watch this intellect on MSNBC. Let's watch her attempt to explain to Joe Scarborough, this great political thinker, this great political pundit, how it was that Kamala Harris was definitely going to win the campaign and had definitely learned from all the mistakes of 2016. Here we go.
The question is, will it make a difference?
Well, that's the big question. But, you know, I was in Wilmington and I was talking to them, and they are, you know, everyone is always like, in the Hillary campaign, in the Harris campaign, they want you to think that they're losing, right? They have taken a totally different tact. They really want everyone to be worried. They want everyone to be out there. And I think that's a lesson they've gotten from 2016, right?
So, first of all, she's an accomplished pundit. And you know what's really funny in this book, by the way? I'm not going to hold up the jacket again. I'm not giving her the publicity. She talks a lot, like way too much, about like being in the car in a taxi, by the way, which means they don't send cars for her, which means they don't think that highly of her, okay? She's a low rent contributor on her way to the newsrooms at CNN or MSNBC because she's so important, and she's crying. She's crying all the time in the car. And you know why she's crying? Because her husband has pancreatic cancer. And by the way, she writes about this in the book. Every time her poor husband is going in for a surgery, she's either, she's like, great, okay, I'm going to drop you at the hospital, and then I'm going home to take a bath and a nap. I couldn't make this up. There's one moment in the book where he calls her from the hospital. He's had to go like to the hospital because his stent has come unaffixed, or it's unmoored and he's bleeding, and she's at the airport going to LA because she needs a few days to herself. I mean, I think she took the kids, but she really needs some alone time, you know, to gather. And he calls her and says, they're wheeling me into emergency surgery. And she says, do you want me to come back? And he texts her, if I'm recalling correctly, and the text reads, just go. Okay, this is who we're dealing with. this is who we're dealing with. And there she is saying, oh, the Kamala team, like they're just saying like they just want everybody to think they're losing, but it's a real strategy. I mean, this woman is a moron. Okay, let's look at this second clip of her attempting to get a thought out.
Everyone you talk to in that campaign says it's going to be tight. We'd rather be us than them. That's what they always say. And, she's going, like even the fact that she's going to Pittsburgh instead of Philly, right? These are choices. Right. And she is going to go to Philly too, and she has, but like these are choices. And I think they've done a lot of really smart stuff. They've got Bill Clinton out there in the South. They've got Obama out there. They've got Michelle out there. I mean, there really is just a sort of very thoughtful campaign, spending a ton of money. They have $1 billion. Look, we don't know what's going to happen, but it will not be because there was some huge blind spot they missed.
We all know what's going to happen and it's not going to be because there's some big blind spot they missed. Amazing. Also, they're doing a really thoughtful campaign, and they're doing what I'm going to point out to you? This thing that has never happened in campaigns before, where they get party leaders. Like, notice that Bill Clinton's out there and Obama's out there. Like, oh my God. Oh, I can't believe people in the control room weren't like, just get her off the set. She is too dumb even for Joe and Mika. Okay. Let's watch Molly, this great intellect, over on MSNBC. And, okay, she's doing a panel with Mika Brzezinski, who is the intellectual equivalent of, when you have a light bulb that's like, zzz, zzz, zzz. That's Mika's brain. And Mika has long been a bête noire for me because I think she brings women down. She has this summit called Know Your Worth, which is bullshit. She has that job because she's a Nepo baby as well. She wound up leaving her husband for Joe Scarborough. All she does on that set, as she has these many years, is when she's in a conversation that's above her head, which is 99% of them, she rolls her eyes at all the boys at the table and sighs. Like, can you believe what I have to deal with here? Which is just clearly a mask for not having a thing to say of value, okay? So it's a winning panel. It's Mika. It's Molly Jong-Fast with her streaked hair and her terrible eyewear. And, I'm just going after her on every level because she's terrible and she deserves it. And then in the lower corner, we have Huma Abedin, who we discussed at great length last episode, and you guys really loved that, okay? Again, Hillary Clinton's handbag carrier from the age of 19 to her current age of 48 or 49. It's indeterminate because somebody's fudging a little bit. People do it. Anyway, let's watch Mika ask Molly what she's learned from Mika.
Women in particular often don't use their voices enough. I'm hoping that each one of you could share a moment in your life when standing up for what you believed in or for yourself seemed daunting, but you did it anyways. It doesn't have to be huge, just a moment that mattered. Molly, I'll start with you.
So my moment is that I had wanted more for myself in my career, and I had this friend called Mika who said to me, you can't step down. You have to push for the things you want. And I was like a little hesitant and worried to do it. And that moment when you said that to me actually really helped me. And it was kind of a demarcation line in my career about just sort of going for things I wanted. And so that is my moment.
My friend Mika said to me, okay, we are just, they used to call it log rolling. We're just fluffing each other's feathers. She gave me the very specific advice that you can't step down, you have to push forward. It's a mixed metaphor, which is, on par for Mika's level of intellect, in my opinion. And, she sounds like Hoda Kotb there. She sounds like Hoda Kotb. It's a bunch of gibberish and it means nothing. And Molly's accomplished really nothing. And, if she should consider, if she wants to stay in broadcasting, finding a vocal coach who can help with that gravelly, nasally, glottal voice. Okay. It's somewhat reminiscent of Kamala Harris. Okay. And, she was also on MSNBC bragging when she was talking about, she was bragging about this piece she wrote for Vanity Fair. We're going to touch on what Anna Wintour is doing over at Vanity Fair right now. I've gotten emails from you guys asking about it. So, but I also just want to briefly mention this New York Times piece, this profile of her. It's dated May 31, 2025. She is shot. You got to look at this picture. She's sitting on a sofa barefoot. All these women who go barefoot, again, I cannot stand it. Like, what are you doing? Put those feet away. She's got like chunky, stubby feet. Put them away. She's sitting in what looks like her apartment on a sofa, holding one of like at least 3, I think, of her very expensive dogs. Here's what she says, is she's quoted as saying vis-a-vis her mother, who again has dementia, and writing this book. And I just quoted, there was the day, not verbatim, but then I found poop in my mother's bed. Fuck off. Molly, quote, it feels like a huge betrayal. I sold out Erica Jong. Yeah, you did. But it's sort of in honor of her. It's not. It's not in honor of her, okay? It was the only way that you could get this kind of media attention, booked on Fresh Air with the insufferable Terry Gross. I'm Terry Gross. Or a piece in the New York Times, which, by the way, I encourage you guys to go look at that piece, and they left reader comments on, unlike the Huma Abedin unholy union to Alex Soros last weekend in the Hamptons. Those comments are shut off. Erica Jong, see? Daughter. Not much. Molly Jong-Fast profile comments are up, and they are brutal. Okay. Again, this is a self-selecting group of people who read the Times and then go watch MSNBC and CNN, and they hate her. And I'm reading from one right here on my computer screen. When I look at who gets the space on the front page of the New York Times, my eye rolls. And I wonder why I pay for a subscription. Molly is a Nepo baby, pure and simple. She needed a lot, in caps, of chances that other people simply don't get to write something that is readable. Agreed. She had a book that came out in 2006. It flopped. It was another thing about being the daughter of a famous mother, because that's all that's going on in that head. That's it. Haven't read her latest yet, but her first books were absolute garbage. This commenter, you should come over to the troublemaker side, okay? Book deals obtained because of who her mother was. Having gone to school with Molly, now we've got some intel. I can tell you, allegedly, I can tell you that Erica wasn't kind to her. Fine. But as of Molly, she says these days, she's mostly a deaf mute when she's given a chance to appear on shows like Morning Joe. If it weren't for what her mother worked for, Molly would be homeless. That is a troublemaker lurking in the comments section of the New York Times. We're spreading. I'm so happy. Okay, coming up, we are going to take some repeat offenders to task and your email. But before this quick break, just a friendly reminder. It doesn't need to be said how much I love hearing from you guys. And as soon as I get back into my Instagram account, it's on, okay? But remember, I want to keep hearing from you. So email me, please, at Maureen@devilmaycaremedia.com. That's Maureen@devilmaycaremedia.com. And remember to like and subscribe and spread the word, because the faster we grow, the faster we can provide you with even more original content. And by the way, you guys, you got a mini nerve this weekend, and I'm excited to tell you about it, okay? We'll be back in a minute. This episode is brought to you by Masa chips. Now, did you know that chips and fries used to be cooked in tallow up until the 1990s, before big corporations switched to cheap processed seed oils? And that today seed oils make up 20% of the average American's daily calories? Recent studies have linked seed oils to metabolic health issues and inflammation in the body. So Masa has decided to do something about it, and they created a tasty and delicious tortilla chip with just 3 ingredients, and none of them are seed oils. Just organic nixtamalized corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. These chips don't only avoid all the bad stuff, they taste incredible. They taste incredible. I've had them. They're crunchier. Masa is tastier. It's sturdier than other chips. You can scoop a ton of guac onto that and it will not break under the weight. Snacking on Masa chips is nothing like eating regular chips. With Masa, you feel satisfied, you feel light, you feel energetic. There's no crashing, no bloating, no gross, sluggish feeling afterwards. The added bonus is the beef tallow is satiating. It makes you feel full, so you're not mindlessly binging hours later. Masa Chips is beloved by tens of thousands of customers and has been endorsed by industry-leading health and nutrition experts like Ben Greenfield and Gary Brecka. Ready to give Masa a try? Go to masachips.com/Maureen and use code Maureen for 25% off your first order. That's masachips.com/Maureen, code Maureen for 25% off your first order. We are back, and we are back with another round of updates on our repeat offenders with a new segment, which I'm very excited to bring to you. So updates. The last 2 days have been dark at the Diddy trial. It's been adjourned. Thursday was Juneteenth, the national holiday, of course. And on Wednesday, a juror called in sick, which is no surprise because this was shortly after the jury had been shown videos of those freak-offs. And according to reports, at least 2 of those jurors looked like their stomachs were turning over. Okay. The Daily Mail is reporting that Beyonce and Jay-Z have lawyered up just in case. Not that they have anything to do with this, but they are ready in case their names come up, allegedly. Now, we are in week 6. This is wrapping up week 6 of the Diddy trial, and the prosecution is still going. We were told when this thing began it would be an 8-week trial. It might go longer. I don't know that the defense is going to wrap it up in a week and a half or 2 weeks. Next up for the prosecution is Diddy's alleged drug mule. Okay, I'll bet you he's good looking. Diddy's kind of like Trump. He likes to surround himself only with the attractive, okay? Another repeat offender. And I'm really, really happy to be doing this one because we're going to be taking him to the woodshed quite a bit, I think. Jon Hamm, who was the first subject of our inaugural episode of The Nerve. So forever a special place, John. We covered his college hazing of a frat pledge in which he allegedly viciously beat this kid to within an inch of his life. Almost lost an organ, dragged the kid around with a claw hammer by the genitals, set him on fire, got away with it. That kid grew up to become a doctor and a lawyer. Jon Hamm grew up to become an actor. Professionally handsome, I call him. I think he's a piece of shit. And you're going to see it in this W magazine little thing he sat for. I guess he did a feature with them. And, now like print outlets always do video stuff for digital. And he's sitting there with his hair and his, and he's just, he can't help himself. This guy can't help himself. Like this, I know, I think I'm right about this guy. Again, just my opinion, but like the smarm and the contempt is just oozing out of his pores. It's like oozing. And we're going to talk about the woman doing this interview because you're going to hear a lot of ambient laughter for like no reason, none. And he's like kind of looking at her like, why the fuck are you laughing? That's not funny. So anyway, W Magazine titled this like 7-minute short, Jon Hamm. This is the headline, Jon Hamm on making bad. I mean, again, they're always telling us who they are. Jon Hamm on making bad behavior look good. Let's go.
I'm loyal. I'm very self-reliant. I'm not like needy like a cat. I'm very like, I'm good. I'll just be over here wagging my tail.
That was Jon on whether he'd want to be a cat or a dog. I mean, who's asking these questions? But anyway, Jon Hamm gets it wrong. Jon Hamm, who likes to fashion himself as being one of the smarter actors in Hollywood because he went to college. Okay. I don't know that he graduated after that hazing incident. I'm not quite sure what happened there, but he says that cats are needy. I mean, you're a dummy. Cats are the most independent, domesticated animal of all. You could leave a cat away. Sorry, you could go away for several days and leave a cat alone and with food, water, and a litter box, and the cat will be fine. You cannot do the same with a dog. Dogs are needy. Dogs are needy. But his interviewer sat there and laughed like Jon Hamm is Dave fucking Chappelle. Okay, let's hear Jon on being quote unquote charming.
I love your character. He's very charming. And you don't think he's charming?
No, I do. That was me being charming about me being charming.
Okay, if you're listening to this, I would encourage you to go look at this part of the show, because when she says, I love your character, I find him very charming, his face is literally like, what the fuck? Like, you have a fundamental misreading of my character. And I'm going to employ that dually, okay? The character that Jon Hamm is playing and Jon Hamm's actual character, because I know my opinion. I think that Jon Hamm knows that he's playing a piece of shit and that people want to overlook that because he's so handsome. And I think that Jon Hamm knows that he's also a piece of shit and that people like his pathetic interviewer over there who's laughing as he's making a face to her that's like, fuck you, you are so dumb, I can't even believe it, and you're laughing at me still. Jon Hamm also knows that he is a piece of shit. Okay, now here's Jon on making said bad behavior look attractive.
You are incredibly good at making bad behavior look attractive.
Well, my wife might have an opinion about this a little more than I. I think that we all are the sum of our decisions, good and bad. And I think people can relate to making bad decisions. Of course, we all have made them in our lives. I think that the crux of drama sometimes is people making bad decisions. My history of characters certainly aren't exactly saints. They're more on the sinner side of the equation, but that's fun to watch, and it's certainly fun to play. Superman can be kind of boring.
Okay, I'm just going to say this again. These guys, they always hide in plain sight. Jon Hamm always plays assholes. As I said in the first episode of The Nerve, he even turned his FBI character in The Town, Ben Affleck's The Town, great movie. He even turned that guy into an asshole. I think Jon Hamm is a limited actor who plays himself. Just my opinion. 2 more notes on that. The off-screen female voice belongs to Lynn Hirschberg. She has been a celebrity gadfly / reporter for decades now. I mean, I grew up reading her, and her sycophancy even then was unbearable. And hearing her laugh at every single thing Jon Hamm says is, no matter how he's looking at her, how he's talking to her, his demeanor, he's like, stop being so obsequious. For a celebrity to want someone talking to them to be a little less obsequious means you are insufferable, okay? Means you are a star fucker nonpareil. Okay, and by the way, with Jon Hamm, that is likely a hairpiece. That is or a hair transplant. He's a 50-something-year-old man. They don't typically have full heads of hair like that. He is probably, I'm going to guess, wearing foundational garments that may or may not be sucking him in properly, hence the framing. It's all make-believe, Lynn. It's all make-believe. It's all smoke and mirrors, in my opinion. And I think he's showing you he's a terrible person. So Lynn, get a hold of yourself. Go find your dignity wherever you left it behind like decades ago. Viewer comments on that YouTube clip, okay? I'm quoting, making bad behavior look good. Like when he set someone on fire in college. You're a troublemaker. If you're not, come over here with us. Another, Hamm has had multiple accounts of acting that way during his college time, allegedly, and can only describe the whole thing as, and this is correct because I quoted it in our first episode, a bummer of a thing that happened. Troublemaker 2, over this way. Anna Wintour and to what she just did at Vanity Fair, okay? When Graydon Carter left, and I believe he was probably pushed out because he was making a really nice salary. His memoir, by the way, I got it. It's not that great, disappointingly. I would recommend instead, if you're interested in media and like the heyday of it and when magazines mattered and when it's really interesting to know who got covered where and how and why and the sort of glamour of that industry, read Tina Brown's Vanity Fair Diaries. They're incredible. It's such a page turner, and she has real self-awareness, and she's reportedly been working on the New Yorker Diaries, which was the magazine she took over after Vanity Fair. And I hope that that's true. Anyway, Anna then hired this woman named Radhika Jones, who I believe came from like the world of literary criticism, Hollywood, glamour, scandal, upper crust, murders and true crime. Not really her scene. She took Vanity Fair woke. She made it woke and unreadable. And I think her first cover was an incredibly unattractive, tight close-up of Lena Waithe, who is a marginal figure in the culture at best, especially at that time. She had that show, or has that show, The Shy on Showtime. I've never watched it, but I was all, I was like, what? Again, as I said, vis-a-vis Lena Dunham, we want to see nice things. It's evolution, okay? So anyway, Radhika Jones was finally kicked to the curb. She said she left. She accomplished all she wanted to do. If by that she means running a once amazing magazine into the ground, mission accomplished, sister. Okay, so then Anna, it was reported on Page 6 last week, hired this guy nobody's ever heard of called Mark Giudici. I think I'm saying his name right. I wonder if he's related to the Giudicis of New Jersey, one Real Housewives of New Jersey. Interesting. Anyway, so she appointed this guy. He's like 36. She apparently, quote, went rogue, according to this report, because Mark happens to be BFFs with her daughter. And she gave him this position, and everyone at Vanity Fair is freaking out, apparently. Page 6 says the mood over there is, quote, dire. The consensus around the office, I believe it was the same with Radhika. Anna wanted somebody she could control. I think she's intent on burning Vanity Fair to the ground so that when she goes to her maker, like Vogue remains the star, the crown rather, in the Condé Nast jewel, which, she's also run she's also run Vogue. They bleed into each other at this point because they're so irrelevant. Who reads Vogue anymore? I swear to God. But I think Anna's real goal here is to destroy the magazine. And she's doing a fantastic job of it, okay? At our expense. Okay, Sarah Jessica Parker is still doing the rounds, the media rounds. As discussed, the consensus in the culture, in the nation, in other countries is that, and just like that sucks. And by the way, I just read recently, and I didn't know this, but if it's true, it also explains a lot. Michael Patrick King, the showrunner, is like 70 years old. And I mean, listen, I don't believe in chronological age as a marker, but this show is so, as discussed spiritually and philosophically and in terms of dialogue, it's so old. The only thing that's not old are their like emotional states, which are regressive. They're regressing. They're incredibly immature. So anyway, Sarah Jessica Parker is still doing the rounds. She's still defending Carrie Bradshaw, her character, which I maintain she has fused with at this point. SJP thinks she's Carrie. Carrie is SJP. We are in our own personal body horror movie, like The Substance style. They have merged. Okay, here she is talking to HuffPo UK, which I didn't even know exists because HuffPo in the US is barely read either at this point. SJP. Again, she likes to prove that she's a smart actress because she reads books, which great. I am all for anybody who promotes books and book reading as she does. I don't think it means she should be a panelist for the Booker Prize, which I believe she is. And she always, I don't think she has a higher education because she, again, uses, it's the kind of verbosity that is overcompensation. It's the kind of overcompensation that people who worry that they're fundamentally dumb use. To my point, SJP, quote, I think fundamentally, Carrie is an extraordinary, I'm going to do it in SJP's baby voice, is an extraordinarily decent and good person, an extremely devoted friend. She's generous of spirit and time. How pretentious, generous of spirit and time in all she has to offer. Okay, it's a bunch of bullshit. It makes no sense. Okay, now we are going to a new segment that I am dying over, and I'm talking about this in a medical way. We're calling this segment Dwarf Minds. And I have a feeling its most frequent inhabitants are going to be morning show hosts. Okay. Now, Jenna Bush Hager and Leslie Bibb, as discussed in the last episode, and as we all endured, made utter and complete asses of themselves as Jenna Bush Hager got a bob on live TV, and they were back at it again the next morning. Let's watch this.
I once went to a topless beach. I might have already said this, which is embarrassing.
Tell me again.
But in Spain,
Did you go?
High school.
You laid out topless in high school?
And I'll just say,
oh, well, your boobs have never, that's when your boobs look the best,
well,
though.
yes, but also,
Can I see
if
those?
you get burned,
It's very
it's not pretty.
No. Did you peel? Mm-hmm. Oh, God.
And they may have turned green.
Oh!
The opposite of the color wheel.
They turned green? Are you for real life? Oh, I don't think that's
Oh
good.
my God.
No.
Okay, enough.
SPF,
First of all, again,
babies, SPF.
Leslie Bibb is doing too much. If she would like to book another acting job, she needs to bring it down. As I said the other day, she's at an 11. I think now she's at a 15. Bring it down to a 5, okay? She's going, you laid out topless? Oh my God. They turned green? I mean, housewives do less face work. Like housewives with no actual theater training or acting training do less face work. So she's like over emoting, and Jenna Bush Hager is talking about her boobs turning green and how she now realizes that sunscreen is a good thing to have because she burned so badly. And like, the whole topic, it's hard to get the words out because it's so inane. And this discourse on these morning shows, I mean, you know what I'm hearing from you guys, you troublemakers? The only time you actually see these people, like the Jenna Bush Hagers of the world, isn't when you're stuck in a hospital or like a doctor's office. You're hostages. It's like how CNN holds us all hostage in airports across America. Okay. Now, I think that Jenna, her accomplishments here, these are her only real accomplishments in my estimation. She might be outdone. Dwarf Minds, Face Off. We've got Whoopi Goldberg on The View I love when she just definitively says something. She's like George Clooney is Edward R. She's going to tell you what's what. And she's an older Black woman, so don't push back or you're going to get it, okay? Telling Alyssa Farah Griffin why Blacks in America, wait for it, have it worse than women in Iran. Whoopi, the floor is yours.
The year 2025 in the United States is nothing like if I step foot wearing this outfit in Toronto.
Killed for
I'm
sorry.
I can't have my hair showing. I can't wear a skirt. I can't have my arms out.
I'm telling you, as
I literally said it was up to the Iranian people.
Yes,
it is up to them.
And that's why I am saying that it is the same. Yeah,
I think it's very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're Black.
Not for everybody.
Not if you're Black.
Guys.
Now, I just want to say, everybody likes to laugh at The View. We laugh at The View all the time in this culture. I think some of the most clicked upon stories are like, can you believe the shit they just said on The View? But, not for nothing. The View is part of the ABC News division, okay? And they're pumping dangerous misinformation and dangerous uneducated takes out to America. And Whoopi Goldberg gets to sit there because she's Queen Bee. And anytime anybody pushes back, and it's the same with Sunny Hostin, who's Queen Bee Jr. What would she be, like Princess Regent? Everything's racial with Sunny. Everything's racial with Sunny. And if you're a white woman on that panel, woe betide you, because they're going to tell you what's what. They're morons. They're idiots. Okay. But we're not done with our Dwarf Minds Face Off yet, because we've got another entrant. I think maybe the winner. I think maybe the biggest dwarf mind. I think this guy might take Dwarf Mind of the Year when we get around to doing the Nerve Awards of 2025, first annual, okay? The comic who has yet to apologize for and retract his editorial statement saying that most women who are abused deserve to be abused. It's their own fault. The one and only Bill Maher. Now, before we get to your emails about Bill, and you guys you have been keeping these hits coming. You are reminding me of stuff. You are telling me things I did not know that I need to look into. Like, so I love it. I love you all for many reasons, but for the Bill Maher stuff, oh my God, my eternal admiration. But before we get to that, the Nerve's own Marlena Shivo has her own Bill Maher horror story to tell. Marlena,
yes.
I can't believe after all these segments, you finally came forward. You are very brave. Let me give you a Hoda intro. You are very brave to stand in your truth and to come forward. And, you know, we know this may not be easy, but this is a journey that we are going to take together. And I am with you, okay? I am with you every step of the way as you tell your truth. So, Marlena, please tell us about your encounter with the legendary, diminutive, small-handed Bill Maher.
Well, this is a very difficult disclosure, as you may know, Maureen, because actually for the most part, I am a huge Bill Maher fan. But back in 2012, I had a run-in with Bill Maher on 75th and Amsterdam in New York City. I was out to dinner with my friends. We just went to go see his show at the Beacon Theater. And I looked out the window and he was crossing the street. So I run outside and I say, "Hey, Bill." And he turns around and I said, "Can I get a picture?" And he did that Bill Maher, like the thing you always do, Maureen, like the eye roll, and his head rolled and his hands went up in the air and they hit his thighs, like, give me a fucking break, And I looked at him and I just said, "I did just go see your show." And he went, "Well, now that I have your money." And so then I shuffled my phone onto his handler and they took this awful picture, but I couldn't possibly ask for another one. Clearly, I was taking up 30 seconds he didn't have. And so I got my photo and I still posted it at the time. But yeah, they say never meet your heroes. And that happened. And it was very disappointing. But I have to say, I have to compartmentalize it. Like I told you, I have to sort of overlook the faulty vows of his character because there are parts of Bill Maher that I like to think are still good, except for the fact that he's a complete misogynist.
Right, except for that. I mean, listen, same way, like I watch his show because I think there are sometimes very interesting, provocative conversations happening on that show. But I will note that last week he was back to 3 male guests completely. And so we got to keep Bill on his toes and get that get more representation of women on his show, get more female opinions. And, Bill should really have someone on his show to come on and push back on this narrative he's got that abused women have it coming if they don't leave immediately. So thanks, Marlena. Yeah. We're going to get to the viewer responses, the audience responses, which you and I both love. So thank you for standing in your truth. Appreciate it.
Thank you for letting me be brave.
So on to audience emails regarding Bill Maher. Okay, header of this, Bill Maher -- true story. Do not reveal my name. You got it. You are safe. You are among friends. We are a non-safe space, but always safe for troublemakers. Maureen, regarding the regarding the deplorable pig that is Bill Maher, I wanted to share with you a true story that highlights Bill's misogynistic behavior when it comes to objectifying women. He can easily identify me, as you'll see. Okay, in the mid-'80s, Bill was an unknown in LA, doing stand-up as acting, minor guest shots on Roseanne, Murder, She Wrote. I have been encouraged to go look up some of those. We will. In early November of 1985, this is so classic, it's great. I was cast in a TV movie for ABC called Club Med, along with Linda Hamilton, Jack Scalia, Sinbad, and Bill Maher. So they were all shooting at a real Club Med, and Bill had a very small part per this troublemaker, so a lot of free time. I quote, "He wandered around the set every day and around the resort every day, carrying a well-worn copy of a Playboy issue and proudly showed every single person on the set. Again, just this Troublemakers report. Men and women, a pictorial inside the Playboy issue, and taking great joy as he told every person, quote, "Look at her. Can you believe this is the woman I'm dating? I am actually, oh my God, if this is true, this is so pathetic. Quote, I am actually fucking this woman. Not a day went by that he wasn't at the bar, the pool, or the beach carrying and displaying that Playboy issue. Oh my God. Determined that every single person at Club Med knew this nebbish little nerd was fucking a Playboy model. It was absolutely pathetic. A quick side story. There was a small stage at the resort. It was open mic every night. Sinbad went on stage every night after filming Wrapped and did stand up, and Bill started following Sinbad nightly. This Troublemaker says Sinbad always did original material every night, and it was always funny. He drew a huge crowd. Bill died every night. He was using old material that he had been using in LA, and it wasn't funny. It wasn't funny. People quickly learned to leave after Sinbad's set, and Bill's audience dwindled to a small handful of people at the bar. The moral of the story, Bill has always been a sad little misogynist. And Troublemaker, I went to IMDb Pro and I looked this up to see if you had your facts right, and you do. This is the page for Club Med, airing in 1986. Bill Maher listed as Rick. His star meter is lower than he would like. I'm sure I won't embarrass him there. Okay. Bill Maher. I taught public speaking for 40 years. Watch Bill Maher's monologue. He is constantly touching his belt with his hand, reaching down lower. I, Troublemaker too, have noticed this, as have many other Troublemakers throughout the years. He's always touching his belt buckle. Like he's always touching it. I don't know if it's a self-soothing thing. I don't know if it's a way to draw attention to what's down there, which again, like if we're talking about, we've talked about his hands. I'm just saying, okay. I'm just saying. Okay. This Troublemaker continues. This is really symbolic. And the first thing as a trainer, I would pick up on what you do with your hands is really important. It's a habit that obviously soothes, his nerves, reaching for his penis, really mature. Troublemaker from New Zealand. Cheers to you. My new rule, Bill Maher feedback. This is our last one for the show. I went back to look up the exact quote from Maher's monologue, and here it is, quote, this is the one blaming women for being abused. Things have changed enough so that moving forward, the rule should be that you women, I'm putting in the women there, that if you're being abused, and this is how he said it, you got to leave right away. You got to leave right away. My take per this Troublemaker, if we can just make rules, I have one. Don't abuse women. How about that? How about that? Bill, still waiting. Okay. And now we're going to end on a high. We're going to end on a high because we all deserve it. It's been a long week. This is our Nirvana segment, our moment of Nirvana, where we talk about things that actually bring us unalloyed joy. They just are great. They're great things in the culture, and they deserve promotion and attention and to become more and more successful. We got word this week that The Pit, the HBO Max show that just finished airing season 1, incredible. Noah Wiley. It's a new take on a medical procedural. I love a procedural. I find them very comforting. But this was unlike any other medical procedural we've ever seen because it takes place, the name is like a double entendre. I believe it's an ER in Pittsburgh, and the Pit is the ER, but it's a lower income, it's in a lower income community. It's a struggling hospital. And so they're keeping it together with like paper clips and, glue. And it's incredible. It's incredible. And they're shooting season 2 already. And I'm so happy it's coming back. And if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and watch season 1. It is like compulsive watching. You can't stop. My other moment of Nirvana, about a week ago, I saw Operation Mincemeat on Broadway. And I'll tell your friend and mine, Megan Kelly, recommended this. She and her husband, Doug, said, walk, don't run. And this is for everybody. I don't care what you think you like and don't like. I don't even like musicals that much, and I loved this thing so much. It is based on a true story of a secret mission in World War II. MI5 created this plan. Ian Fleming, 007 author, was among the team members to redirect Nazi troops by finding a young dead body, a male, dressing him up as an RAF fighter pilot, dumping the body somewhere in Spain, along conveniently with like top secret war plans about where they were next going to invade, And it's a black comedy, it's a drama, it's hilarious, it's camp, it's deeply moving. There's 5 actors in it, and all 5 actors play multiple roles. They like turn on a dime. You're 1 minute you're weeping, and the next minute you're laughing so hard you can barely breathe. There are Nazis in a disco. It's amazing. Just go and try to see this original cast, because this is lightning in a bottle. And one of those actors whose name escapes me, just deservedly won the Tony for Best Actor in a Musical. This guy is, whoa, just will blow you away. Beyond. Anyway, Operation Mincemeat, The Pit. That is it for today. Now we will see you over on YouTube on Saturday for the mini. Remember, the minis are only on YouTube at the moment. So we're usually up there by 10 a.m. And if you're on the East Coast, it's time for coffee. And West Coast, if you're up early, it's time for coffee. And then we'll be back here on Tuesday for the Mega Nerve. So join us at the Nerve, where you will never guess what we're about to say next.